Hey everybody, I'm Ben. Welcome back to Board and Savior. One thing that I've noticed in board gaming is that unless you're very, very careful, you may end up with a collection that has more than a few games that you almost have no interest in. Now this, I think, happens for a few reasons. First, maybe you see a game that looks great, and so you buy it early, and then reviewers tell you it's not as great as you thought it was. Now that's too bad. What about the other side of things, when reviewers tell you that a game is great, and then you buy it and you realize it's just not for you? Now, those are two very real things that do happen all the time, but we're also going to talk today about a third option. You buy a game, you want to play the game, and then time passes, years pass, and you realize that it is a game in your collection that you've just never played. I have way too many of those in my collection, and I've pulled some receipts over the last several years of board game purchases. We're going to go through those today and look at the worst board game buys that I've ever made. The things that really, when you think back on it, you think that was a waste of money. We're going to talk about those things today, and you can laugh at my misfortune, and I can say, how can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? January 11th, 2018, I placed an order to Miniature Market. And this order had quite a few things in it, as you are seeing right now. It had Champions of Midgard, Photosynthesis, Onitama, and Viticulture. Now, I'm not going to talk about all these games. Viticulture and Onitama are happily in my collection. We're talking about Champions of Midgard and Photosynthesis, two very different reasons for discussing them. Photosynthesis is still technically in the apartment, but it is not long for my collection, I fear. It's just not for me. The look of it, I think, is great. Those trees are beautiful, but as a game, it's a little too mathematical, it's a little too soulless for me, and that might not be your experience with it, but for me, it feels kind of cold to me, and so Photosynthesis, not a great purchase, but I had to play it a few times to learn it, so at least I've played it. Champions of Midgard, on the other hand, is a game that I have had, yes, since 2018, 6 years of owning this game, and I have not played it one time. Why is that? I think the main reason, and so this is a good excuse until it's not anymore. The main reason is that I heard pretty early on that Champions of Midgard is a game that works best with the expansions, the Valhalla expansion specifically being one that I know the Dice Tower folks say often, don't even play it without the expansion. Not to say that it's a bad game without the expansion, but just that Valhalla expansion adds so much and really makes it as full and real of an experience as it maybe was always meant to be. And so I, for truly years, had it in my head that I wasn't going to play Champions of Midgard until I snagged the Valhalla expansion. The problem with that is that it was out of print for a long time, and I never felt like it was worth the high prices of getting the out-of-print copy. So I never played it, and then, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I got the expansion, and at that point, I kind of felt like I had the expansion, I had the game, and I was like, man, there sure are a lot of other worker placement games that fill that hole in my board gamer heart. I don't know if I really need to play this one. And that's not to say that I won't. It's still in my collection. It is still available to be played. I want to get it played at some point, but there are just so many great worker placement games that I already know and love and am familiar with. And so whether I want to introduce a new person to worker placement, I'm probably going to go with something that I already know. And my friends who already know some worker placement games, they don't love learning new games. Who loves learning new games? So they just want to go back to the old, classic, fantastic worker placements that I already have. So 6 years. Never played it. Opened the box, love the components, looks lovely, and we'll see how long I can keep that going for. Moving a little bit later in the year, this is something that I talk about a little bit in my board gaming, things I wish I'd known as I was building a collection, that video. When sales are offered, I have a very hard time not splurging, not buying a lot of stuff. Take a look at this. This is a whole bunch of games that I bought just 6 months later in 2018. Kingsport Festival, Kraftwagen. I said Wagen because I'm all fancy and I know how to say W's in German. The Palace of Mad King Ludwig. Same deal, Ludwig. Nautilus Industries, Hyperborea, Raptor, and some dice. Who cares about the dice? We're not talking about that. I will talk about the 2 successes from this list. First, Hyperborea and Raptor are delightful games. Did a review on Hyperborea. Excuse me. Give that a watch. Raptor, absolutely fantastic game. One of my, I don't know, top 10 favorite 2-player games of all time, for sure. Raptor is great. This video is about the other games on this list. So let's go in order. Kingsport Festival. That is a game that I never played and is no longer in my collection. Never ever played it. Looks like I spent $9 here. So that is actually, I'd say that's a pretty good price. To buy any like full-size board game for $9, that ain't half bad. But I never played it at all. And that comes down to the player count. It looked super interesting. So the mechanism of Kingsport Festival is actually the same general idea as Kingsburg, which is kind of a dice-based worker placement in a way. You roll dice, and let's say there's like a grid of worker placement slots, essentially, that are labeled 2 through 12. And so you roll 2 dice and you roll a 3 and a 4. That is a 7. So you can either combine those and do the action of the 7 slot, or you could take the 3 action and the 4 action. And that just seems like a really kind of fun, unique mechanic. I didn't have Kingsburg, and I still don't, which is too bad, but that mechanic seemed really fascinating to me, and so I bought it, and it's a 3-player minimum game. I don't have all that much opportunity to play 3-player games. When I do, 3-player games tend to angle a little bit more toward like family weight games. And not to say the Kingsport Festival was super complicated, but it was maybe a little bit more complicated than the type of stuff that I would have played with my family at that time. And so Kingsport Festival just sort of languished in my collection until I saw the opportunity to trade it away for other things, and never ever touched it. Good use of $9. Then let's talk about Kraftwagen, a game that I think is fairly well regarded. People generally think that it's a good, solid game, and that is the reason that it was in my collection for as long as it was. I believed that it was a good, solid game. Reviewers that I respected told me so. And so I just always thought, well, I'll play it eventually. I'll get around to it someday. And whenever I had the opportunity to play a game, whenever I had the opportunity to teach a new game, I wouldn't go for Kraftwagen because it was a kind of dinky production, all cardboard, all sort of understated, and it was all about building old antique cars. And the theme, regardless of the solid mechanisms of the game, it just didn't grab me. And there is a lesson there. If the theme doesn't grab you, that's probably never going to change. I feel like unless the mechanisms are so incredibly fantastic, if the theme doesn't grab you, don't bother with the game. Another game that I never played, Nautilus Industries. Beautiful production, nice little like gem pieces, and it all looked great. And it was an economic game where you're manipulating a stock market, and it never caught on as something that I wanted to introduce to my group, despite, this is the other side, despite the good look of the game, the beautiful pieces, and the theme is interesting as well, like diving underwater to get cool crystals and minerals. That sounds interesting enough, but the mechanics of the game, while I'm sure they are solid and they work well, seemed a little too dry and dull for my taste and for the taste of my group. So the other side of, if it has an interesting theme, make sure it has mechanics that grab you as well. And finally, the least bad on this list is Palace of Mad King Ludwig. Bought it because I love the castles of Mad King Ludwig, and so I wanted to give another style of that game a try. Played it once, had a relatively good time, and just never really had an interest in playing it again. Do I still own it? I don't. That's a bad sign. I don't own it anymore. I looked over to where it used to be in my collection. I do not own it anymore, and I still own Castles, and that one gets played pretty frequently. I think maybe for me, one thing that really differentiates those games is that Palace of Mad King Ludwig, while it still has the quirky names of all the different rooms in the strange palace of the Mad King, the shapes of those rooms are all the same. Everything is, I think they're all squares in the Palace of Mad King Ludwig, and that took away some of the novelty and whimsy and weirdness of Castles. The main gimmicky difference between the two is that Castles, every player is building their own castle, and Palace, everyone is contributing to one single palace, which is an interesting idea, and I like that as a notion, but there's no reason for me to have both. Castles feels like the funner game, and so why not have the funner game be the one that I play? All right, heading now to 2021. There's only one game in this list that did not get played very much, and Twilight Imperium, Decrypto, Unmatched, and the X-Wing playmat all got used and are still being used. It is My City that has never been played. Why is that? Actually, why did I buy it in the first place? Shut Up and Sit Down did a video on it, and it looked very fun. It works as a solo game, and I figured worst case scenario, I would just play it as a solo game. Now, this is a game that is still in my collection. This is not one that I decided wasn't for me. It's just one that I haven't gotten around to yet, and I intend to, but right now it really is just something that takes up space and reminds me that I am an imperfect collector who is not great at gauging what things are instantly interesting and things that I want to grapple with as soon as I get them. So My City, not a huge failure, not the stupidest purchase that I've ever made, but definitely one that if I hadn't bought it, I wouldn't be missing it right now. And then maybe that's because I haven't played it and I don't know what I'm missing. So who knows? Maybe in a year I'll come back and I'll say, wow, it was a good call buying My City 3 years ago, and I'm so glad I finally got around to playing it. But up until that point, all I have to go on is I forget that it's in my collection sometimes. And that's not the greatest sign. All right, a little bit closer to the present day, and listen, lessons have not yet been learned in the history of Ben and Board and Savior. This is more recent, and there are even more recent receipts than these. This is a huge whiff in terms of purchases, in terms of what I've actually played and enjoyed out of this particular purchase. Let's go through the list here. Star Wars Legion things, those are fine, although the speeder truck expansion specifically is one that I haven't built yet. And it's a really big unit, and I don't know where I'm going to display it, quite frankly. So that one, even that, is maybe not my best buy ever. Now, moving down the list a little bit, the Battle of Five Armies. Okay, so War of the Ring, love the game. Top 10. So good. So good. So, when the Battle of Five Armies came out, I said, well, yeah, I mean, of course, I love War of the Ring. Why would I not jump at the chance to play something so similar and so in the same universe. But as I'm saying this, I'm like, what were you thinking? Why did you buy that? It's not like I truly don't know exactly who Battle of the Five Armies is for, because if you love War of the Ring, I'm guessing it's because you love the Lord of the Rings. And I don't know why you would choose as frequently as you would need to make a game that pricey worth it. I don't know why you would choose to play that over War of the Ring. War of the Ring has so much strategic depth that unless you play it all the time, it's not like it's going to get old for you. New things are going to happen every time you play it. You could play that, I don't know, and no one does as far as I know, but you could play that once a month for a year, and the first game and the last game would be extremely different. I don't really know why I bought Battle of the Five Armies, because I feel like the people who should buy it are the people who love The Hobbit and love it maybe more than Lord of the Rings. I think that's a pretty small group of people, but if that's you, then sure, Battle of the Five Armies is maybe the better bet. But for me, someone who plays War of the Ring somewhat infrequently to begin with, because it's such a chore to set up and to teach, I would rather just play that game. Battle of the Five Armies is still in my collection, but you better believe if I do a cull video this year, that is going to be one of the ones that gets left behind, because I just don't see myself learning the addendums and changes and all that instead of just playing War of the Ring again, which is so great, and I haven't played it in a little while. That's all I want to do is play that one again. Moving down the list a little bit, Furnace. Another Shut 'Em Sit Down recommended game that I believe wholeheartedly is great. I just haven't touched it. This one is maybe more of a failing of me than some of the other ones. This game seems like one that I would like, seems like one that people in my gaming group would like, and it just hasn't really come out yet. And this is not one that I'm planning to get rid of. It is a pretty small footprint in my collection. It's a smaller box, and so I have no problem keeping it around. It's not taking up too much space, and I do fully believe that I will play it soon enough and enjoy it, but at least to this point, haven't done it. Skull, played it, love it, very fun, good buy, good purchase. Radlands, I've played it once. I think it's great. I played it on Tabletop Simulator. I have not yet played the actual board game version of it. Also, I have the retail edition, which comes with less fancy schmancy components. I don't know if it was a great purchase, if I should have held out for the deluxe version. I do tend to prefer the deluxe versions of things. So maybe that was a boo-boo oopsie time for me. But I have played it and I do like it, so at least it's not the worst purchase I've ever made. And then we have Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. If you watched my 2023 board game cull video, you know that this one isn't in my collection anymore. I played it a couple times. I didn't love it. I just kind of wanted to play Terraforming Mars, and so in and out, that one. It was pretty quick, actually, from entrance to exit from my collection. Watergate is a game that I like a lot. I have, like Radlands, only played it on Tabletop Simulator, so you may be asking, was it worth it to buy the physical thing if you've only played it on Tabletop? Good question. I don't know. We have 2 Blood Rage expansions, and these are a stupid purchase. These were so dumb. I've played Blood Rage just a handful of times. I think it's pretty good. I don't love it, but I bought the expansions because they're more miniatures, they're more things. Maybe these will make me like the game even more because everyone else seems to like it so much. So that's a dumb purchase. Don't do that. Don't buy things because you don't like the game that much. It's not that I don't like the game, but I don't love it. Don't buy things for a game that you don't love because maybe they'll make the game better. I think that's a silly idea, and I am very guilty of it. Then, this is the second to last one, we're almost done here. Then we have an order from 2023, from June of 2023. First thing on this list, War of the Ring, the card game. Same thing, same general idea of the Battle of Five Armies, but I'm a little bit less upset at myself for this one, and this one is staying in my collection. Why are you buying a card game version of a game that you already like so much that you kind of just want to play that game? I don't know that this was a dumb purchase. It may not have been. I may like it, and it may give me the feeling of War of the Ring in a much shorter runtime, which is the hope. It's the idea. But in the spirit of this discussion, I feel like I have to mention it because it is a purchase that I didn't need to make. You know, I haven't played it yet. I knew that I wasn't going to have the opportunity to play it for a while because the buddy Hussein, who I play these, more nerdy IP-based games with, we don't live in the same place at the moment. And so why not play it with him on Tabletop Simulator and see whether or not I want to buy it? Didn't do that. Just bought it because I love buying things. That is a bit of a problem and causes me to sometimes waste $27. And if you count up everything on this list, waste a little bit more than $27. Moving down, Subterra. Another game that I'm interested in playing and just haven't done it. I'm sure I will at some point, but Guy, you've got plenty of games that you are interested in playing that you haven't played. Why are you adding more to the collection? Why not whittle down some of the other ones before you start buying more that you know are just going to sit around for a while? This is, I think, probably for a lot of board gamers, the realest problem in collecting is the seeing a game and saying, oh, that sounds super interesting, and then not being able to say, but am I going to play it? That second question and being able to truthfully answer, not for a couple years, that is such a thing that I'm striving for. Because when you can do that, when you can say not for a couple years, you can realize, and it's not always the case. You have to also realize this, that there is a risk to it. But a lot of the time, you say, I'm not going to play this for a couple years. If you wait a couple years, you're going to be able to snag the game for cheaper. You're going to save money. Again, not always the case. Some of these games go out of print and then are definitely more expensive when you go looking for them. But is that fine? Is it fine if you let a game go and then you see a couple years later, oh shoot, now it's double the price? Well, I guess that's not worth it. You're not going to miss out on that much. It's probably on Tabletop Simulator. I don't know. And it's such a hard thing because it's so pleasurable to own games. This is a tough hobby. There are these weird philosophical elements to purchasing these things. Is it worth it to own something that you aren't going to play because you know you own it? The satisfaction that you get from knowing that you own it, is that worth it to you? In some of these cases, no. In others, yeah, it's worth it to me that I own War of the Ring, the card game. It doesn't really feel worth it to me that I own Subterra. Why is there that difference? I don't really know. But if you ever figure it out, boy, I think you're going to save a lot of money. And then the last thing on this list, I'm just going to say the same thing again. Caesar. Game that I fully expect is great. I own Blitzkrieg and I love it. That's why I bought Caesar. Why did I buy Caesar if I own Blitzkrieg and love it and it's very similar? I don't know, because I like buying things. That's really the answer to all of these questions, is that I like buying things. Haven't played Caesar. I'm sure if I do, I'll have a great time. But until then, enjoy having a home in my shelves, living rent-free here. And finally, one last thing to talk about. July 11th, 2023, less than a year ago. June was also less than a year ago. But less than a year ago, I bought Marvel Zombies, a Zombicide game. And this is yet another one where I go, dude, you've been doing this for so long and you're still falling into these same traps. Zombicide is a game system that I don't even like. I don't even like it. But maybe I'll like it if it's Marvel characters. Dude, I don't even know. Ben, what are you doing? Yes, there's a cool zombie Hulk. Yes, there's a cool zombie Doctor I don't know if he's in there. He's in one of the other ones, the Heroes Resistance. There are cool zombie things. There are cool regular minis. It's Simon. The minis look good. You don't like Zombicide. This game is a little bit different than the early Zombicide. I played Black Plague, Green something. I played one of the earlier ones. I think like the second one I played, and I said, I don't really like this. This game is different. There are changes and tweaks and things that make it more streamlined and better. But how different is it? How different is it? You're still zombies, or you're still fighting zombies, or you are zombies. I know in Marvel Zombies, you are actually the zombies, so there's this hunger mechanic. But in the X-Men Resistance, you can play as the heroes, and then it lets you... It's still a zombie game. It's still under that umbrella. And I know that I don't like it, but I know that I do like Spider-Man. So in my collection, it goes. And I'll let you know, potentially. I only have so much time. I can't make a review for every game that I play. But I may do a review of it someday, because I haven't played it. And that would be one that's kind of interesting to see if it changes my mind about Zombicide. I feel like that's an interesting thing. And if it doesn't, maybe you'll see it in a Cull video instead. That is the end of these receipts. And so, I don't know, let's synthesize this. What did we learn? I think we learned that I buy a lot of things and that I don't need to buy as many things as I do. I think that's the lesson here, is maybe chill the F out, man. Maybe chill the F out and it'll be fine. This is me talking to me. You've got over, I think, like 150 board games, definitely over 100 board games. You don't need more unless you need the game. I think that is the lesson that I'm trying to learn, that I'm trying to teach myself. You don't need it unless you need it. If you're not sure that you need this thing in your collection, just don't buy it. It will be okay. You have plenty of great games already that do the trick just fine. If you need it, that's amazing. Then add it to your collection and it'll be special and you'll get something out of it. But don't buy games this way. I just did a haul video where I talked about all the new games that I bought recently, and I think there are games in that list that fall into this list too. I haven't fully learned the lesson yet. I think it's going to be a while before it is something that is really, truly, permanently actionable. Like Dice Throne, already played it multiple times. I think that was a good purchase. Monumental, I've played once, and I love it. I played it one time, so who knows if it falls apart after you play it a bunch, but I love it after one play. Dark Knight Returns is a game that I think looks like one that I'll love, but I worry because of the size that it'll be something that sits on the shelf for too long and maybe starts to become something that's not super worth the purchase. Like it's just like kind of a bigger, more complex game, and so it's a solo game as well. So like the onus is all on me to learn it. So I wonder if that one will feel worth it in the end. Earth is a game that I think could feel worth it. It just depends on when I get it to the table and how I feel about it. What else was on that list? Brains and Brawn, Unmatched. I think any Unmatched set is worth it for me because of the joy that I get from collecting Unmatched and trying out all the new fighters. I don't know. Regardless, I think the lesson is don't buy something unless you need it. And the lesson, actually, I'm gonna amend that. The lesson is try not to buy something unless you need it, because there is an element to this collection hobby that like buying is part of the fun. It's owning should be, and I want it to be, the bigger part of the fun, owning and playing the games, but buying is part of the equation for me. And so trying to buy games that I need is the goal. yeah, I think that's a good lesson. Let me know if you agree with that lesson, if you have been able to achieve that lesson, how you manage your collection. I'm truly curious, and also what your stupid board game purchases are, what the things that you've bought and you've gone, wow, I don't know what I was thinking. I'm going to end with actually a humongous one because it's very fun. It's right over here. We'll see. Can you see it? Maybe. This is Mythic Battles Pantheon. This is the very last thing that I'm going to talk about before I sign off. Mythic Battles Pantheon is I think it was a Kickstarter game with a ton of miniatures, and it's like Greek pantheon and all sorts of things are fighting each other. Someone put it up on Facebook Marketplace for fairly good price, not even like a great price, and I looked it up, I saw the miniatures, I saw reviews, and the entire time that I was watching reviews, I was going, this looks pretty good, but I don't know if I need it. And then I bought it. That is a level of sickness that I think is kind of actually sad. Like, really, and I'm not trying to bring this down, but that is an addiction to buying things. That's what that is. That's why I bought it. Miniatures are cool. It's fun to paint miniatures. It's fun to have miniatures, fun to display them. But to spend how much I spent, $250, maybe something like that, on Mythic Battles Pantheon, and it was a lot of stuff. It was a Kickstarter. I don't know if it was quite all in, but it was a lot of stuff. But that is why I bought it, because it was a lot of stuff. Because I knew that it would be exciting to open it up and look at all this stuff and touch all this stuff. And it was exciting, but was it worth $250? I don't know. I don't know. It's something that I will need to take time to answer and really like look inward, be philosophical, be probing, ask yourself these questions with the things that you buy. Don't just accept that it was a good purchase because you made it. Check in with yourself. See if it was a good purchase, because saving money is, in this friggin' economy, well, let's get political. Saving money is so important. It is so hard to save, so hard to put money toward retirement. These are boring things that are important. And yeah, addictions to buying things can set you back. And I'm doing okay financially. I'm doing fine. But I could be doing better if I was more careful, if I was more thoughtful with my purchases. I think I'd be doing better financially. And so just be thoughtful. Think about it. Do your best to really be mindful, be thoughtful. Did this get a little bit deeper than I was expecting? Absolutely. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Like the video, give it a subscribe. Tell your friends about me. I want money from this so I can buy more games and talk to you about how bad it is to buy games. You see what I'm doing here? No, I haven't made a dime from this. I don't know when I will. Who knows? We'll see. Regardless, it has been a pleasure talking at you. Please talk at me in the comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day, whether this is the morning, noon, or nighty night. Take care. This has been Board and Savior talking. Bye!